It is Thursday, the 5th of November, 2020. Are you tired of it yet? Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Um, People still seem to think that the PlayStation 5 is going to be superior, better than the Xbox Series X. I mean, what the fuck? That is so fucking stupid. All of this and so much more on episode number 47, the Bruce Hurst episode. After recalling that Hurst wore number 47, I spent 15 minutes on baseballreference.com. That website is an absolute wet dream for the white male 35 to 54 demo. It's fucking amazing. I get lost in there every single time. Never fails. How they don't have targeted ads, mind-blowingly stupid. But whatever, what can you do? Anyways, this is Complaints and Observations.
The greatest podcast hosted by someone who knows so precious little about almost everything. A journey into the mediocre mind of an exceptionally average person. This is Complaints and Observations with Dave LaPointe.
There's a tingling in my trousers and it's not a good one.
Stupid thing.
Who the hell is Dave LaPointe?
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking time out of your day to listen to my monotone gibberish. It's appreciated. It really is. Thank you. Look, I mean, of course, there's been other shit going on. I'll be joined on the show today by my friend and co-founder of the homegrown nutrient management company Nute Tools, Nute Tools. Free plug, nutetools.com. If you grow marijuana at home, you will want the Nute tool, the needle, the Nute needle, I should say. Fabulous way to manage your nutrients for your flowers and your plants. Check it out. We talk about all kinds of shit. It went on way too long. Every time Evan and I talk, you know what? I just realized I didn't even say his fucking name. Holy shit, David. That's what happens when you write a script and you leave shit out. Let me start over. I'll be joined on the show today by my friend and co-founder of the nutrient management tool company, Evan Glasser. The name of the company is Nute Tools. Wow, I fucked that whole thing up. Oh my god. Holy fuck. Oh god, I'm an idiot. I only had one cup of coffee today. Jesus. I bought some coffee. The name of the coffee company is Good Walk Coffee. It's like a play on golf. Fucking fantastic. Holy shit. It was like a South American dark roast. Oh my god, this stuff is fantastic. Money well spent. Good Walk Coffee. Check them out. Holy fuck, is that good? Wow. Anyway, my conversation with Evan, every time he and I talk, we talk too much. Like we don't talk enough. We don't get together enough. But when we do, and when we talk, the conversations are. I love talking to him because the conversations are great. Like I say it at the end of the second half of the conversation is that every single time I talk to him, I am smarter than when I started. It happens every time. He's just a very smart guy. Anyways, but we talk about all kinds of shit, and like I said, I had to break it up into two parts. So part one today, part two next Thursday. Today you'll hear an incredibly interesting take on the marijuana industry, Nute Tools and their role within it. And he'll talk a little bit about the company. We'll talk about marijuana in general. We get into talking about the 90s briefly. And growing up, in a variety of different places throughout his life. He's lived in a lot of different places, so he has an interesting perspective, an interesting worldview, which is part of the reason that I enjoy talking to him. But he is one of the very few New Mexican Aussies on the planet. So check it out. It's very interesting. Hopefully, you enjoy the conversation. Seriously, though, um, there's way more shit going on than just preparing you for an interview where you'll actually learn something. But the giraffe in the room, if you will, is the presidential election, which of course is akin to being forced to eat at Taco Bell. You know that everything on the menu is fake, processed bullshit garbage. It'll probably cause intestinal stress, but there's literally nothing else available. So let me pull my soapbox in. Feel free to skip the next couple minutes if you choose. But, this is a politically agnostic program, so I'm not, and because of that, I should say, and it hasn't, the election hasn't been determined. I'm stuttering and spitting and fucking trying to read at the same time. I'm so fucking stupid. Oh, God. I can't yet talk about President Trump being a one-termer just yet. That'll have to wait for next week. But being politically agnostic also means that I can't talk about a few of the progressive gains during this cycle that are somewhat encouraging, like the growing Hispanic voting bloc in the Southwest, new members of Congress, including two gay black men in the House, as well as a trans state senator in Delaware and a convicted felon in the state Senate in Washington State. No one should really give a single ounce of shit about any of that, really, as it has nothing to do with anyone but the person living that life. Of course, being politically agnostic means that I'm not able to mention the roughly 70 million of my fellow Americans that don't seem to have an issue with a candidate featuring decades of documented racism, rampant corruption within his administration and their party that tries harder to stop people from voting than it does to stop the spread of an annoying virus that we're all fucking tired of, and finally, flat out embarrassing hair. As I mentioned, this is my soapbox, so if you don't like it, fuck yourself. It is ultimately meaningless, as my opinions are certainly different than others. The good news, we can have a conversation. It can't talk, although there are limits. We shouldn't have an argument on whether or not racism is good or bad. Like, it's not a thing. You can't have that argument. It exists. It's a thing. You can't tell me otherwise. So I'm terribly sorry. Having said all of this, I see very little tangible actual change afoot. But as I mentioned, there are some positives for those of us with a shred of empathy and rational thinking to draw upon. So that's what I'm choosing to do. It'll be very interesting to see how this moves forward. I have a feeling this is going to be a very long, drawn out process. We've already seen issues at, some of these states where they're still counting ballots. Apparently that's a bad thing in some people's minds. It's beyond frustrating to watch because it just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. You cast a vote, it should be counted. The thing that kills me is like, look, the last time we went through this bullshit 4 years ago, it was called because Clinton had no chance to catch up, regardless of any, mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, or anything like that. It wasn't possible. So therefore, you had major publications, the Associated Press, television networks, et cetera, they called it for Trump. And then what people don't realize is they finished counting the votes, just because it was called doesn't mean they stopped counting ballots. That's not how it works. Everyone's counted. Every single vote is counted. Even if the fucking thing gets called, they still keep counting. It takes a long time. We're talking, what are we talking? 70 to, like 75 million ballots across the country that need to be counted. It's pathetic that it's only that little, to be honest. And there's 365 million people in this country. I don't know how many actual are eligible to vote. I would imagine 2 something, right? I didn't bother to look that up. That's not in the script. But it's embarrassing that the number is 65 to 70% of eligible voters actually voted. What the fuck you doing? I don't get the not voting thing. It's another thing I don't understand. But again, as I said, it's the Taco Bell of whatever. Like it's shit either way. Either way, Biden was not my initial choice by far. In fact, he was probably 4th or 5th on my list. Which reminds me, ranked choice voting here in Massachusetts didn't pass. It didn't pass because you didn't tell people how to fucking do it. You didn't explain it like you were talking to a first grader, which is how you have to treat the electorate these days. It's a good idea in theory. In practice, it's probably not, because then you have people like the people up in Maine screaming about it. Oh, it sucks. Why? Because you have to fucking think for 2 seconds. You don't have to do it. It's an option. If you don't want to pick 3 candidates, you don't have to. You could just pick one and walk out of the room. It's fine. It's okay. But apparently, big fucking deal. So, I don't know. I could talk about this crap for a couple minutes more, but quite honestly, my head is I shouldn't even say that. It's not. I've done pretty well to not dig into the minutia of the whole thing. I find the reaction from one side of the aisle really fucking, one, disingenuous, and 2, stupid. You've got, in some states they're like, count every vote, and then in some other ones, stop counting. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, pick one. Either you want them to stop or you want them to keep going. You can't pick one to just fucking simply fit your argument. That's not how it works. When you have an election in this country, every vote is counted. I'm terribly sorry that you're just figuring this out now. Anyways, coming up, my interview with Evan Glasser from Nute Tools and my dear friend. Please listen. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something. You should learn something. And when we come back, we'll talk about shit that doesn't mean much of anything at all. So check it out. And don't mind the shoddy editing at the end of this, okay? I'm not a trained professional. Deal with it. As promised, yet another guest this week. A guest entirely different than my guest last week, so I'm very happy. But a big welcome to a dear friend who I find to be both endlessly interesting and entertaining, while also just being a genuinely good human being. A big podcast welcome to my dear friend, Evan Glasser. Evan, thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute honor. And what an intro.
A great intro. Oh, and he turned his camera on too, so it's wonderful. He's wearing his wonderful yellow Aussie. Is that a rugby jacket?
Yeah.
Oh, look
No,
at
it's
you,
just
huh?
It's a sweat jacket, but it's so
It's
funny
wonderful.
that yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
A sweat jacket.
A sweat jacket.
There we go.
Rather.
Oh man. So in case my listeners aren't aware, Evan is from New Mexico, as you can tell by that beautiful Australian accent of his. Again, thank you so much for coming on. What I'm kind of hoping to talk about is that we talked about before I got into it just having a bit of a free-flowing conversation, but I did have a handful of topics that I wanted to bring up with you. And before we even got started, one of the things that I had mentioned to you was how fascinated I am with your business, your side business as it is, Nute Tools, Nute Tools, for the home growing experience, if you will. Um, Talk to me a little bit about one. Talk to me about Nute, and then two, talk to me what it's like to be in the weed game, essentially. Because
Yeah,
I'm
well,
again, it's something, and you and I have talked about this in the past. I am very, very interested and fascinated by the marijuana game and how lucrative this business can be at some point down the road, for sure.
yeah, no. Well, I'm not sure I would. I think it's excuse me, generous. 2 minutes in, and I'm already slurring. I think it would be generous. Wow, I cannot speak. It would
Jeez,
be
what a terrible
generous. There
decision
we go.
this was. Good
Terrible
lord.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be generous to say that I'm fully in that industry. But I think Newt itself was quite an organic idea that just sort of, I don't know. Like I think we spoke about this before, but after I, left Wayfair, I didn't have a huge amount of stuff that I was sort of like, interested in kind of going back into, right?
Hmm.
I was sort of, I was a little pissed off, et cetera, et cetera. And just something, this sort of opportunity came up, and it was an opportunity to kind of like work for yourself and to, start something and try and build something that I was able to have some form of control over the way that the policies were formatted and the way that things were set up. And, I could control how I would treat my employees, and I could control how I would treat my customers. And that whole concept was quite interesting to me. And my business partner, Rob, who is, the co-founder, we all have just made like a very interesting sort of complementary sort of skill set together where he could do marketing, he could do design, he could do product development, he could do analytics, and then I could do people stuff. And I so it's very it just ended up working out quite well. And it's just been sort of like starting small, and we literally started with nothing. I think really the field to describe it is sort of like nutrient management rather than necessarily the homegrown experience, but it's to help people in their home growing process and help them kind of like develop tools and stuff like that, and develop processes that fit in currently with the stuff that they're doing. So it's a cool brand. I think we've done a lot of work on that, and it's been really cool to sort of see it grow. And it's interesting that you ask about like the marijuana industry. I think that there's sort of two very like separate parts to it. And again, this
Hmm.
is me speaking as a fairly a layman, but having sort of been operating within it. But there's sort of like, obviously there's like the flower side of it, where there's actually the products that are contain the THC that's actually like going to be regulated and taxed by governments or prohibited.
Hmm.
And then you have this other really interesting side, which is like kind of like grow equipment, which isn't actually illegal. So it's a very interesting, like niche space to be in. So like for me, I don't, I know people who are working in the sort of flower side and the flower side of the industry, but really like where I do know is like I said, there's equipment based industry. You know what I'm saying? So, if you talk about this industry, it's very interesting, it's super niche. Um,
Very niche.
yeah, extremely. And it's
Yeah,
a fun spot to play in because like when we
absolutely.
developed our first product, the Newt needle, like, there was just nothing like it because it's like, it's a niche industry, candidly, cannabis growing has not been, has not been like, the most forefront of everyone's mind. So
Right.
it was sort of probably not too much, there's not a huge amount of entrepreneurs that really, was interested in getting into that space. Obviously there were some, and they've become hugely successful because there's a lot of money in the space.
Mm.
Um, but so when you come in and you sort of look at inventing new products, it's so cool because it's so possible because it's such a new space. There's it's a lot of opportunity for growth as the legal side of it grows. This side grows with it. Huge opportunities for commercial stuff as well as sort of like it's going to become the next alcohol.
I mean,
So
and
like
that's
it's a
my thinking.
fascinating
Yeah, and
thing. Yeah.
that's my thinking all along has been, it is had such a stigma attached to it for literally no reason.
Mm,
It was done essentially to benefit the cotton industry,
mm,
however many moons ago, because people understood that cannabis and then hemp and CBD and in the medicinal properties that those things had, and the
Mm.
commercial properties of hemp. But lumping them all together, it became stigmatized, so that you
Yeah.
could put that evil sort of marijuana. It didn't matter what it was, and so now as you see, sort of the a more, I guess, adult way of thinking and saying, okay, well, let's look at
Mm.
this is the same way as alcohol. We can regulate this, we can tax it, we can earn money
Mm.
off of this. So being in the space to me is incredibly interesting,
Mm.
and I wish I was smart enough to actually figure out that niche and get into it. But the thing about nutrient management now, do you sell it? How many of your products do you think you've sold to people who aren't growing cannabis?
I don't know, man. Not many, I think, to be
No.
honest. Like, yeah, I mean, just sort of the phase, sort of the place that we are in terms of like most of our marketing is done through Instagram,
Mm.
Facebook ads, you know. So just sort of the place that we are means that mostly it's very well targeted.
So you
Um,
couldn't sell, just for example, let's say you have uh, a competition pumpkin grower in Wisconsin.
mm,
Just throwing out hypotheticals, and they use the needle to manage the nutrients of their
sure,
1,500-pound
they're
pumpkins. I mean, is that is
pumpkins,
that
yeah.
feasible? Is that something that?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, the thing is it's targeted purely, and that's where we spend
sure.
our energy, just because we feel like that's where it's most applicable.
Mm,
But there's loads of different uses for it. I mean, some people use it for like watering, like because it's a long sort of 14-inch stainless steel needle tip that you attach onto a 100 milliliter syringe. It's
mm,
designed to like get into the bottom of big barrels, and they're just big gallon jugs and stuff
mm,
like that, which often times contain nutrients and other stuff that's really integrated, excuse me, in the process, and really important. So people were spilling their stuff everywhere. Can I swear on the podcast?
you sure fucking can, buddy.
Fuck yeah, sweet. So people are spilling their shit like all over the place, and it's wasting nutrients. It's nutrients are stainy.
Yeah.
So like I said, the thing was designed for that. But having a 16-inch needle is particularly and on the top of it's a lure lock, or it locks into the end of the syringe, and it's just it's definitely got multifaceted uses. And I'm so proud of it and so happy with it. Like, with not to like toot my horn or anything, but
No,
like we
toot
went
your
through a lot of
horn.
shit with this product.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it was difficult to get it right, and we finally got it right. So it's nice to also be able to say that as a business, to be able to be
Mm,
like, okay, like I have a product that I'm super stoked with, and something that I feel very comfortable like sending around anywhere, because it's durable and it works. You know what I mean? And it's got
mm,
good quality, and I'm willing to back that. And that's the kind of products that I wanted to represent at Nute, was sort of those kind of products that were durable, good quality, and something that you can believe in, and a brand that you can kind of and build the brand around that. And it's been working, man. Like I said, it's like, and
yeah.
I've told you in private, like how that's going. So thankfully it's going forward. But it's interesting. You sort of mentioned back there about sort of getting into the industry and going back into sort of like taxation and stuff like that. The one thing that I heard that I was at a like a it was like some sort of drinks like well before this COVID lockdown started. I think it was sort of like
Mm,
in the maybe like even 6 or 7 months ago,
mm,
and I was talking with some dude at this barbecue, and this dude was like a food scientist, and the dude was like telling me about how he was like working with like these marijuana companies to essentially innovate food products, like new different kinds of products. One of the ones he was talking about, which for me would be an absolute no brainer, but like sort of like a Kool-Aid kind of like
absolutely.
THC thing. Drop
Yep.
it in some water, mix it up. You get yourself like a lemon flavor, whatever it
Hmm.
is. Strong THC. Bring that anywhere you want.
Yeah.
In a bottle. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And all you need is water, and like
And
that's a game changer, man.
you've
It
seen
takes
some
it
of
to a whole
these.
different level.
Absolutely, and the thing you're gonna see, and you have already, these large alcohol companies that are trying to tie into cannabis, like Corona, for example. They, I wish I could remember the name of the company that they bought, but they bought a company who was developing, uh, you know, THC infused beer and THC infused like malt spring water beverages and shit like that. So
Damn.
yeah, I mean it's never ending. It's an endless. Like you've seen what happened in the last, say, I don't know, 2 years with all this bullshit alcoholic seltzer water.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
That fucking shit it blew up, it exploded. So to me,
Yeah, I know.
if you do the same thing with THC infused seltzer, that's going to be at some point,
It's gonna
maybe
be
not right
massive.
away, but it's going to be massive. It's going to be
Yeah, like
absolutely huge.
there's this really great company out of Massachusetts. It's called like Mary Palmer. They do like these awesome like lemonade drinks, all these flavored lemonade drinks, and they do great edibles. And I'm myself very much into edibles. I've been more interested in edibles quite recently, just because of how like yeah, I suppose a little bit healthier than smoking, I think, and also just like a very different sort of high. This is a very stonery thing to say,
No,
but like
it's accurate.
yeah, I mean, I've been into them. Quite recently. So just the concept of having just more selection of those kind of things, and more targeted and more innovative. Like, someone's got to be able to kind of get on the phone and essentially. The other thing is, like, because the market's so new, there's so much room for like brands. So like if you build a good brand, you have a lot of opportunity, and really just having that strong brand. So I think that's why actually, and to bring this sort of around that circle to Nute, I think that's really what we've been working on the most, is essentially like to create something that stands out within the space as it is now, so that you can build some kind of following and recognition and stuff like that for when the space really blows up. You know what I mean? So I think mate, I think your opportunity is there, Dave. You just gotta find that
Just have to
specific
find it.
product.
Gotta find it.
Because
No, that's the thing.
right, mate. Because you have like wholesalers now. You have like you don't even need to worry about essentially you don't even need to worry about getting a license. You could just start making stuff and seeing what happens, and then just giving it to people to sort of distribute and stuff like that. And maybe it would be under the table, and obviously I wouldn't want to be encouraging anything illegal on this podcast. But the vast majority of these businesses out in California, which went legal, essentially they all started in the gray area.
Of
So they
course,
had like
sure.
they had like the run up. So
yeah,
it's all great, man. It's all so exciting, and obviously it's going to get dominated by Monsanto in 10 years. So
well,
get in while you can.
Get in while you can, exactly. So cool. NuteTools.com, Nute Tools.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I thought.
Thanks for the shout out, man.
Hey, no problem. That's the show's free plug.
That's the free one. Yeah,
that's the free plug. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Sweet.
that.
I'll be paying that fee later then.
Yeah,
I promise. Do you take Venmo?
Yes, please. Yeah. Venmo. Yep, excellent. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Cool. See, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying. It's an incredibly interesting topic, and the fact that you have so much knowledge about it, I think, is great for the show. So thank you very much. As I started, with my intro, being from New Mexico, you're the only New Mexican that I know. So congratulations. It must be it's a huge honor, I'm sure, for you. But
huge.
In reality, one of the things that I also wanted to talk about was your growing up overseas, and how you think it would compare to growing up here in the States. I'm kind of looking for that sort of, the thing that sort of separates, the upbringing of, say, someone that's your age that grew up here, and then, some of the experiences that they're missing out on versus the experiences that, growing up in Europe and in Australia that you would miss out on in the States. It's one thing that, this is a question I've always wanted to ask you, but it's never been the sort of, I don't know, it's never really come up because we end up talking about some other bullshit 9 times out of 10. So, yeah, and that too, yeah. So I'm kind of curious as to your answer to that.
My complaints and observations, one might say.
Bingo. See that? Look at you.
I'm so good at this podcast.
You're so goddamn, you're so smart, Evan. That's why you're on the show.
Oh, I don't know about that, but it's interesting, man. It's an interesting question, I suppose. Obviously not having grown up in America, like, all that I can kind of, assume from people who I've spoken to. So, you never really can be fully sure, I suppose, of every single difference. But in terms of what I think I think that growing up, so for the listeners, then I was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico, lived there until I was 2, and then moved to Australia. And then when I was 14, my family moved from Australia to Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland. And then after I lived in Switzerland, I graduated high school, excuse me, took a year off and went to America to go to university or college. And so like I don't know, man. Like
That
I think like
gap year, that gap year has always been interesting to me too, because
yeah.
everybody in Europe takes a gap year. Am I wrong in making that assumption?
Everyone in Australia for sure does. I'm not sure
Okay.
about Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Europe's got a similar. I mean, it just depends, man. Like
Mm.
Europeans are pretty good travelers, you know, because obviously their
Right.
countries quite you know, they're all very close together. So like,
Mm.
you know, they've got, and it's an easy to kind of, you know, move around, like getting each other's cultures, getting each other's business, etc. You know, Australia, because like I don't know. I really don't know. There's just a huge like travel bug amongst everyone. Like you'll be pretty rare to find someone who's going straight back into, you know, the working world after school. You get people who, graduate high school, travel for a few years, come back, study, take another year traveling, and then go to work. Like it's a different pace.
Mm.
It really just depends. Like, you know, here you're just churning out of college and churning out of high school and just quickly get onto the rat race, you know, get onto the hamster wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I
you know,
think
but there's benefits
that's
to
a
that
big
too.
difference. Obviously, is the difference.
Sure, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's definitely a cultural difference. I think, like, you know, Australia, first off, the '90s were just a chill time. I think, you know, I was talking about this
Yes, they
about some
were.
people, and I don't know if you'd agree with that, but the '90s were pretty damn good, man. Like,
They were wonderful.
I actually remember like very specifically like when I was a kid, like the minute like it became like not as cool to be American, because I was always I always would say that. And
Yeah.
that was like just after 9/11, you know, just
Yep.
after that 9/11 and seeing America's like crazy response to it, which was,
Hmm.
you know, as an American, like I completely understand why they made that response. But from the international community, like America kind of just got so angry, it just started wildly swinging and it didn't really care who it hit
Hmm.
as long as it hit the person who you know attacked it. And like, you know, here we are 20 years later, right? And we really kind of are able to look at that behind some rose tinted glasses and sort of say like, well, you know, what were both those wars really for?
Yeah.
You know, but again, you know, I'm not trying to get political on the podcast. But like, you know, like I said, you know, but at the same time, like you got to understand what the people were feeling at that time.
Right.
And people were mad and people were scared and angry and you know, I was definitely one of them. And I think I brought up like a fairly large amount of resentment in me towards obviously terrorists and stuff like that. You know, I really hated them, and I, you know, as a citizen, and I felt, you know, personally attacked too. So, you know, I definitely always have considered myself to be American in some way, shape, or form, like my entire life.
Well, legally.
But you know what I mean? Legally, at least, I had to pay taxes
Yeah.
because that's another thing. If you're
Yeah.
an American citizen living abroad, you still got to pay tax, which is absolutely wild. But anyway,
it's dumb is the word you're looking
it's so
for.
funny,
Yeah.
and most other countries don't do it.
Of
Don't
course
do it,
not. Why would
but it's
they?
funny. And it's funny because it's a country that's obsessed with tax and with
Hmm.
not taxing. So it's something I would have been surprised about.
Yeah.
But anyway. So yeah, I mean, I think Australia and the '90s in general were just like a very nurturing, good time. You know,
Mm.
there wasn't anything cray out there. So you know, I grew up like fairly. I think I think it was just a little bit more like a little bit more calm, like smaller towns, so people knew each other more. Like I wasn't in a city, so I
Mm.
really got to build like a sense of community. The school I went to was like a real hippie school, so I learned how to sing and draw and do all that kinds of stupid shit. And of
Yeah.
course, like as a little kid, I was like super rebellious. I'm like, I don't like this. I want to do math. And then I like
I
got
want
into
to do math.
I want to do real shit. Yeah, that's the craziest thing is like that was the way of like essentially like, you know, pushing back against the
Yeah.
school. You know, I've always had an issue with authority, Dave, as you know. So
Yeah.
that was you know, that was just my way of pushing back. Of course, like now looking back on it, you're like, damn, like I'm so glad I got taught that shit.
That's right.
Because
Exactly.
yeah. Well, and then just on the flip side, I moved to Switzerland and just was horrifically academically unprepared for for the standards at that international school, and so was just like went from like, you know, becoming a pretty average student pretty quickly. But again, man, the other thing actually, and it's interesting we're talking about weed, but fucking alcohol in Switzerland, you can drink it beer and wine at 16 and cider. I've talked to you about this.
Yeah.
So like you got to understand like the concept of someone who's like essentially understands exactly how alcohol works and how alcohol affects you by the age of 16.
Mm.
Probably earlier, because like
Yeah.
for me, I know I was drinking in bar. I knew I was drinking in bars at 15.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was going in there illegally and buying drinks, and there were some places that would just let you do that,
Yeah.
obviously. So, you've had the worst hangover of your life by the time you're 16, and you're drinking beer and wine with it. So,
Mm.
you're never going to be wanting to, you're always going to know how you're affected by alcohol and how much alcohol you can consume safely. So you get a lot less alcohol related deaths like you get from these kids who come to college here in America at like 19, and they're 18 should be the legal drinking age,
Oh,
like
for
for
sure.
sure. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean? There's no
absolutely.
question.
No.
Man, if you can yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
No, nothing. I mean, just you can see it. That the comparison that you made obviously is, kids going to college at 19, where they go fucking crazy with their drinking. It becomes dangerous because they're stupid. They're kids. They don't know
Mm,
any better.
mm,
So they go and do stupid shit. And next thing you know, they get themselves into trouble, get themselves in an accident. They die, whatever. But and that's an excellent sort of juxtaposition, because the thing that I've always heard as well in France, you're given wine when you're like 14 with your dinner. It's no big
mm,
deal. So the idea of, because my other assumption too is that alcohol is probably not marketed the same way in Europe as it is here, where every sort of commercial that you see for like a beer is a raucous party good time, um, and they sort of they make it look as if life is 10,000 times better when you have a beer in your hand as opposed to without. So
mm.
I mean, I don't know if that's how it's marketed overseas. I don't really can't say I've been exposed to that. I'm not sure, but to me, it
I,
seems that it's probably different
yeah, I mean, I think
because the
European ads are just
relationship.
worse.
Do
European
you
ads are
really?
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're terrible. Like
Wow.
I think they're very much like just product. Like a lot of them are very much like some of them obviously are good, but a lot of them are just like product displays.
Yeah.
America, like they're very good at like reaching inside you and like grabbing all the things that they want you to, they'll find exactly what makes you tick and they'll put that
Mm.
in front of you. Like they're
Sure.
very good in America. I mean, obviously they do that in the UK as well. The UK being separate.
Yeah.
Man, I think like, Anglo-Saxon cultures or
Mm.
cultures that were sort of, come up through like sort of Germanic people
Hmm.
and Celtic people, I suppose, slightly less. But regardless, Germanic people have just a drinking culture that exists within their culture. Like
Right.
it's a big drinking culture. The Germans, the English, the Australians, the Scots,
Mm.
Irish, Welsh. You sort of go a little bit, or I mean, even like all of Europe has a big drinking culture, but like, not quite the same as like the Germans, not quite this, you think of Oktoberfest,
Mm.
the Aussies, think of the way that we put away beer,
Mm.
Americans as well through like the German, it's a big drinking culture over here, English too. So
But
my thought is,
let me ask
yeah.
you this before, and I hate to interrupt, but it's a big drinking culture, but it starts at an early age, right? So that it's
So that's
not
what I was going to say.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I
Yeah,
mean,
so Germany is the same thing, dude. Germans are, those cunts have figured it out, man. They're smart. Like they've figured out everything, man. What country what country freaking uh loses two world wars and somehow manages to come back and
come
become
back,
like an
come out
economic
pretty
powerhouse
well.
every single time. Like,
Yeah.
they got the Germans are good people.
Mm.
They're responsible, they work hard, they just do a good job, and I think that having a drinking age for beer and wine is just the solution to all our problems. I think you'll find that in college alcohol related issues, first off, like, let's be fucking honest here, like what fucking alcohol complaints in college is the biggest piece of shit. American colleges are the biggest piece. My first complaint on this, American fucking colleges, dude, they're jokes. Like outside of
Yep.
maybe like the
Yeah.
Ivy Leagues, what the fuck are they doing
They're
anymore?
businesses. They're
They're
there to
literally
make
just
money.
businesses, and not even good businesses. They're
That's right.
businesses run by a bunch of softies, dude.
Yeah.
They're like safe spaces in a college. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What do you think of like those French revolutionaries back in like who were the ones that were fucking like starting the whole humanist movement and shit? In the fucking
Oh,
monarchy,
man.
who'd be like, oh, no, safe space. You can't
Yeah.
come in
Nope.
here and
Sorry,
talk
you
about
can't say
revolution.
that. Yeah.
Only our revolution. We can only
That's
talk
right.
about it. You got to
Yeah.
get out. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, fuck's sake. But anyway, so those fucking universities, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is all I'm saying, dude. But yeah, I've sort of lost my train of thought and getting into
Yeah,
that
I know, but that was
angriness.
such a great. That was such a
But yeah,
great.
a
Yeah.
lot less alcohol deaths on you. I mean, come on, man. Like, no college admin's gonna sit there with a straight face and tell you that like a fucking alcohol fucking violation in college is serious. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
fuck off. If you don't have an alcohol violation in college, you're a fucking loser, dude. I don't care who you are. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you should be drinking. You should be pushing those. You should be trying to do that shit. Like.
Hope you enjoyed that. We get into, like I said, a handful of different things. We talk about Europeans starting to drink at young ages, which I thought was very interesting. His take on that was pretty similar to mine, but you know, what can you do? Colleges, I thought was pretty funny. It's a funny drop. But anyways, as I mentioned, yeah. So I love having discussions with Evan, and I really do. I really do hope you enjoyed that, and hope that you got a little something out of it. Even if it's if you happen to know Evan, even better, because then I would hope that you realize that Evan is a very interesting guy as well. So one of my favorite people on earth. Anyways, let's get back to the toy aisle, if you will. Um, this week's best bets are in, and I can tell that you're all very excited. Scott Banksley is still in first after last week. He is 6-1-1. I mean, honestly, I said to him last week, I'm like, we need to come up with a magic number for when he gets this shit wrapped up. I mean, I would guess 4 weeks. Unless somebody he would, yeah, I would say, what are we, week 8? I mean, if he gets to like week 12, and it could be 4. His magic number could be 4. 4 wins, 4 losses from myself and Jackie Fraudley Jr. And this shit's over. But anyways, so Banksley has Arizona -4.5. Reasonably interesting bet. Can't say I love it. Can't say I hate it. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Who are they playing? Hold on. Oh, the Dolphins. The red hot Miami Dolphins on the road. Um, the Dolphins defense is no joke. So we'll see if they can, perform like they did last week. That'd be interesting. Jackie Fraudley Jr. He has Seattle -3. They take on the Bills in Buffalo. The Bills are a fraud team. We all know this. If you don't know this, you should know this. Fraud club. So that that should win. And I took Tampa Bay -4.5. What the fuck? It's already gone down. Fuck! I made the bet at -4.5, and now it's down to -4. Fuck you, bookmakers. Go fuck yourself. The Saints are beat up. Very beat up. Drew Brees. I don't know how the hell they're winning, to be honest, because he's playing like hot garbage. So it'll be interesting to see how that. And I think that number is low. Tampa's at home. I would have guessed 7 plus. For some reason, the Patriots game is off the board. Don't know why. Something happened in the last 20 minutes? I wonder. Oh God, this is the downside of like doing these things, is that shit changes constantly. Ugh. So we'll see what's going on there. Hopefully nobody's picked up the Rona again. But the Patriots game, as of right now, off the board. We'll see. A lot of interesting matchups this week. Again, just kind of touching on the Patriots. I mean, if they don't win against the Jets, then we can write off the whole season. Even if they do win, getting them to 3-5 on the year is, look, they're not gonna run the table from here on out. But again, they're not as bad as they were against the 49ers. They're not that team. They're a better team. They played well last week against the Bills. I talked about that the other day. They should and could conceivably, what do they got? 8 games left, 9 games left. I don't know. They could go fucking 6-3 and finish 8-8. I don't see a problem with that. And look, 8-8 this year could get in the playoffs. Not that it fucking matters if they get in the playoffs, because who gives a shit? They're not going anywhere. I'd prefer they not get in at all if that's the case. But it'll be curious to see what happens Monday night. There's a handful of decent games. Ravens Colts should be close. Chargers Raiders should be close. I mean, and the Chargers will find a way to lose. Even the Giants and Washington should be close, but it'll probably be dreadfully boring. Denver Atlanta has a chance to be a fucking point show. That number it's at 50 points. That seems kind of low. Interesting. I have to look at that. Tonight is Packers 49ers. I'm pretty sure that the Packers are going to roll. The line is 7 because the Niners are basically fielding a Division 1 AA squad tonight. They are the most beat up team in NFL history. I have never seen any. The list of injuries just keeps going and going and going and going. Fascinating shit. They're missing their best wide receiver. Garoppolo's hurt again because he stinks. But them being 4-4 is honestly a minor miracle. But they're going to suffer the same fate as some of these other clubs that they get to the Super Bowl and lose, and next thing you know, they fall to shit. So I'm very curious to see how the rest of their season goes. I think they're on the bye next week. Not sure. No, are they? No. Nope. Next week they're at the Saints. Then they're on the bye. Then they play the Rams. The Rams, who are a fraud team, who I didn't realize the other day, the only teams they've beaten are NFC East teams, and pretty much everybody can beat the NFC East. So, but yeah, I mean that's it. It'll be, football should be good this weekend. We'll see. Your West Ham United take on Fulham. Last place Fulham, Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. NBC. Probably NBC Sports Network, if I had to guess, or maybe even Peacock. That bullshit. But West Ham is a favorite this week, -125, which probably means they'll lose, because that's how it goes when you support this club. I hope not. Could use the 3 points. It'd be nice. We're good part of the schedule against lower clubs that we should beat. See how it goes. Fingers crossed. But that's it from the toy aisle. Toy aisle. Toy boat. Toy boat. Toy boat. Toy boat. Lastly, the Instagram giveaway. If you haven't entered, please do so. Go to the Instagram page at ComplaintsPod. I will post yet another picture of the swag that you have a chance to win. All you need to do, like the post, follow the page, tag 3 friends. Voila, you're entered. Okay, so you get a poorly made T-shirt. These fucking things. I sent this company an email, and I'm like, why would you send T-shirts with a stitched logo right in the middle of the chest? That's not what I wanted. I asked for screen printing. and a larger logo. Oh, well, yeah. So I'm fighting with them. We'll see how that turns out. Probably not in my favor if I had to guess, but the knit cap though, sweet. Like bright red. The logo came out terrific. You got a T-shirt, some stickers, and a handwritten note of thanks from yours truly. That'll have no value or meaning whatsoever. And then the T-shirt you can wear, if you're a female and you happen to listen to my program, which I doubt, you can wear it to bed. You can wear it to I don't know why you'd fucking wear it. You could wear it in public if you want. I don't know why you would. Um, but or as I said in my post, everybody needs a T-shirt. I'm looking at my current selection of T-shirts right now. Personally, I don't really fucking have anything, and I've been painting like a fucking crazy person for the last week. This plywood in this house that they used in the basement fucking sucks up paint like nobody's business. And I'm using a navy blue paint because I wanted something dark that would cover the fucking disgusting yellow that was down here before. And it's like 3 or 4 coats to get this fucking shit on. It just, I can't win with this fucking house. It's absurd. But everybody needs a T-shirt when you're gonna paint something. You know what I mean? Put the T-shirt on, you get paint on it. Who gives a fuck? Throw it away. Then you know what you do then? You cut it up and you use it to wash your car. And then lastly, it'll be used. You spill some random chemical on the floor or something. You use the shredded T-shirt to clean that up, and then you throw it all away. The life cycle of a shitty free T-shirt. There you go. Hopefully it doesn't. My assumption is after a handful of washes, the stitching will start to fucking come apart. But what do you know? Who knows? I've talked too long. Thank you very much for listening. Please go to the Twitter page at Complaints Pod, the Instagram page at Complaints Pod. I do have a Facebook page, but fuck Facebook. I have a YouTube page that I've never used but once, and quite frankly, I probably won't be doing it again. I do have an email address, showmail at complaintsandobservations.com. You can call and leave a voicemail, 617-65-RIP'em. If you want to be on the show, let me know. 3 or 2 good guests, 3 good segments I'm going to get out of that. I'm very happy about it. I would like to have some other guests, so if you want to be on the show, if you know anybody that wants to be on the show that is interesting and wants to talk about something, please let me know. Love to get them on. That's it. Thank you very much, as always, for listening. I very much appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Godspeed. Ta-ta.